There is something that happens to a man as he gets older that nobody talks about. Not in the locker room, not at the dinner table, not between fathers and sons. He starts to understand love differently. Not the love he chased at 22. Not the love he thought he had at 35. Something quieter? Something deeper? Something that took decades to see. This video is for the men who are starting to see it, and for the younger ones who need to hear it before it's too late. Today were the 7 shifts that separate the men who loved well from the men who wished they had. 1. Young men chase attraction. Older men understand love. At 22, a man confuses intensity for intimacy. The racing heart. The obsessive thinking. Psychologist Dorothy Tennov called it limerence, an involuntary obsessive state driven by dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin depletion. It feels like love. It is not love. It is your brain on chemical override. Real love is what remains when the dopamine fades, and you choose to stay anyway. 2. He stopped trying to fix. He started to listen. Young men are problem solvers. She tells you something hurts, and your brain builds a solution. This is not what she needed. Research from the Gottman Institute shows the number one thing partners need during emotional distress is not a solution. It is to feel heard. The older man learns to say, "That sounds really hard." Instead of, "Here's what you should do." Presence is not passive. It is the most active form of love. 3. His ego was the enemy of his love. The young man needs to win the argument. Not because he is cruel, but because his ego is still louder than his love. John Gottman identified the 4 horsemen of relationship destruction: contempt, criticism, stonewalling, defensiveness. Every one of them is the ego protecting itself. The older man learnt, you cannot win an argument with someone you love, because every time you win, the relationship loses. The goal was never to be right. It was to stay connected. 4. Time is the real currency of love. A young man thinks love is a feeling. An older man knows love is a practice. Reach for her hand before reaching for your phone. Put down what you're doing and actually look at someone when they speak. Harvard's 80-year study on happiness found one thing above all others determined a man's meaningfulness at 80. Not money, not career, not achievement. The quality of his relationships. The men who hadn't loved well described their greatest regret with one word: distance. 5. Vulnerability is not weakness, it's the door. Men are taught from their first scraped knee to hide what hurts. They become walls when their partners need windows. Brené Brown found vulnerability is not weakness, it is the birthplace of connection. The moment a man says, "I'm scared," or "I was wrong," or "I don't want to lose you," he's not losing power. He is opening the only door through which real intimacy can walk. The bravest thing he ever did was not to fight. It was to say, "I love you, and I'm afraid of losing you." 6. Long love is a different chemical. When you first fall in love, your brain floods with dopamine and norepinephrine. Around months 18 to 36, that chemistry shifts. Most people panic. They think the love is dying. It isn't. It is maturing. The brain transitions to oxytocin and vasopressin, the chemicals of deep attachment, calm devotion, and partnership. Don't mistake quiet for cold. The relationship that feels less like fireworks and more like a warm light on every evening. That is not a lesser love. That is love at its most evolved. 7. Love is his most important legacy. At the end of a man's life, no one remembers the car he drove. What they remember is how he made them feel. Did he make his children feel seen? His partner feels chosen every day. Research on deathbed regrets consistently shows no one wishes they worked more. Almost everyone wishes they had loved better, not more loudly, not more expensively, better, more present, more patient, more brave to say what needed to be said and before it was too late. There is a man watching this who has someone in his life right now who needs to hear 3 words from him. Not tomorrow, not after the game. Now, the psychology is clear, the neuroscience is clear, the deathbed data is clear. Love is not something you feel when conditions are right. It is something you practice, in the mundane, in the difficult, in the Tuesday evening, when nothing special is happening, and you reach over anyway. That is the love that lasts. That is the love that matters. That is the love that defines a man. If this says something a man in your life needs to hear, share it with him, not as a message, as a gift. Subscribe next week. The neuroscience of why men struggle to express love. See you there.